Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished a live stream on this channel on Twitter's landmark legal loss of protections in India, effectively making it impossible to do business in the second most populous country in the world and the second largest market, global market in the world. So check that segment out every day at around 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Pacific. I have a live stream. Hit subscribe to this channel. The live stream was fantastic. Hit subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. That's in the pinned comment below. This is CNN. Trump is suing Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. Here's why they shouldn't worry. I think that President Trump, specifically against Twitter and Facebook, has a very compelling case. Look at the Steele dossier and look at our beloved President Biden's son's emails. Look at the Steele dossier and look at emails that are detrimental to the Democratic Party. What is the difference between the two? Well, one actually belongs to the president's son. So the occupant today in the Oval Office is somebody whose son had emails that were incriminating. Emails that were that showed that our beloved President Biden lied through his teeth, could be used as impeachment to impeach the president, to impeach our beloved President Biden, because he lied about meeting his son's business associates. They're in the emails. The emails also prove or point to why he might have forced out a prosecutor in another country. The rebuttal is, well, you don't know if those emails are genuine. Well, you knew the Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton and the DNC, but Twitter and Facebook didn't ban or suspend anyone for utilizing or sharing or spreading disinformation pertaining to the Steele dossier. You then can't say, well, the government utilized it, because the government, when President Trump was inaugurated, we had the government pushing back on the dossier. We had the President of the United States saying it was complete, just full of just the most absurd tinfoil hat fantasies, that it wasn't true. So you can't fall back and say, well, the government was utilizing it like BuzzFeed did in a court of law to get out of libel. The Steele dossier was a completely fabricated, libelous document full of hearsay and gossip, and, they conjured up and created this work of fiction. It was only disinformation. Nobody was ever indicted on the Steele dossier, based on the dossier, and it was purchased by Trump's direct political rivals. The conflicts of interest alone should have prevented Facebook and Twitter from allowing anyone to spread that nonsense. Now, a lot of people aren't looking at it this way, but this is, I think, the way you should look at it. It's not a matter of whether Twitter or Facebook, because a lot of journalists or people on the left or Democrats, they say, well, there's no evidence. There's no compelling evidence because, look, Trump supporters dominate Facebook. Yeah, they would dominate a lot more. If it wasn't for the double standards, they would dominate a lot more. That's not a rebuttal. That's not a rebuttal at all. And so it's like you look at the selective enforcement of arbitrary protocols. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I told you 3 years ago, just get off of Twitter. I got off Twitter 3 years ago. I got off Facebook 3 years ago. Twitter suspended the New York Post's account. There's no greater example than Twitter suspending the New York Post's account for a legitimate story where you have a owner of a computer store with records, with Hunter's signature and an invoice and a laptop or computer that belongs to almost certainly the president's son. If this was Jared or Ivanka or Donald Trump Jr., they would have no hesitation to pump any nonsense into into the internet or into journalism or media. They wouldn't care. Okay, the fact that the New York Post's account on Twitter was suspended and then Dorsey says, oh yeah, it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. You have people who run Twitter, Facebook, and other tech giants. They're all liberal Democrats. They're not, very few, if any, are supporting President Trump. So Tim Pool has done great work on this. He was on Joe Rogan with Dorsey and a Twitter representative, legal representative, okay? And he explained all the double standards. Like, you can't, okay, for Trump in January, he wasn't accused in a court of law. The Attorney General of D.C. and the Mayor of D.C. never accused President Trump in a court of law. They would have to do that. It's like Major League Baseball moving the All-Star game because they alone have decided that Georgia's laws are unconstitutional. They're not the Supreme Court, they're baseball. And they also have an antitrust exemption that they should have just done away with. The Republicans should have gone after MLB. They have no right to decide that a certain law is unconstitutional. Who are they to decide? They can't even deal with their own problems within Major League Baseball. And the Supreme Court upheld those laws recently as not breaking any statutes within the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So you have like major institutions within society siding with Democrats or the Democratic Party narrative. And that's not right. It's not fair. Now, India did the right thing. Prime Minister Modi and the High Court in New Delhi did the best thing possible. They protected their country from what I consider a scourge. Twitter is a vapid at best, very destructive at worst, social media platform that highlights and emphasizes fleeting thoughts that are almost always linked to negative emotions, especially emotions fabricated and derived from oftentimes apoplectic but always morally superior liberal Democrats. Most liberal Democrats and pundits on the left don't have any actual arguments. It's based on their sensibilities, their feelings pertaining to right and wrong. So they can look at the data, or they'll twist the data beyond belief, and they won't look at the aggregate data. And you'll have an argument like, well, Trump worked with Russia. Why? James Comey and John Clapper and John Brennan say so. All the experts say. People with knowledge say. It's just glorified gossip and hearsay. They'll adhere to glorified gossip and hearsay when it suits them. And then when it doesn't suit them, they'll get Twitter and Facebook to back them up. So any information that isn't specifically rooted in an actual fact, if conservatives or Trump supporters share that information, it's banned, suspended, your account is suspended. If Democrats do that, it's okay. Steele dossier is an example. And Hunter's emails are an example of selective enforcement. You can't allow a dossier full of gossip and nonsense that is completely unsubstantiated, full of baseless claims. How many baseless claims were made against Trump? All you had was 4 years of journalism masquerading, or baseless claims masquerading as journalism. Two people, two unnamed sources, people familiar with the matter. You don't have, there are an endless example. Oh, Trump gave classified data to the Russian ambassador. How do you know? Well, the New York Times says so, and it's according to people familiar with the matter. What? Trump called this country a bad name. How do you know? Oh, well, it's according to people who were at the meeting. That's not journalism. That's gossip and hearsay. If your protocols are you can't spread gossip and hearsay and disinformation, then and you only ban or suspend conservative accounts and usually allow liberal or Democratic Party aligned accounts to flourish. One example is the faceless or just the profile, the phony and fake profiles. Okay? Democrats have flooded Twitter with profiles that are just completely made up. And what they do, the profiles are there simply to just go after people like Devin Nunes or intimidate others. In many ways, I had to go to the police station, and the police officer was 100% right. I had a threat on my life, and he was 100% right. He said, "Arm yourself." He literally said, "You know what you need to do," which was Second Amendment, and so I did. Okay? If you're a law-abiding citizen, you can do that in this country and protect yourself. So when you have people who are trying to intimidate you, the best thing to do is to appreciate the Second Amendment. Okay, but see, again, these are platforms where venom and contempt and disdain are leveled against conservatives with impunity, or even Bernie Sanders supporters. It's anybody really that is either to the left or to the right of a political spectrum that's defended by Dorsey and Zuckerberg. Facebook is completely selective on how it enforces its own protocols. Okay, and you can also make the case that the Facebook CEO in particular is very much tied to, just like Twitter, the Democratic Party. Give me your thoughts below on that. Hit subscribe right now. Check out the live stream. It was fantastic. I have a live stream every day at like 2 to 3 p.m. or 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.